The morning sun shone through the lab windows as Minho bent over his microscope. He had been studying the same blood sample for 3 hours. His back hurt, but he couldn't stop now. The results were too important. Jia, come look at this, he called to his research partner. Jia walked over, her lab coat swishing as she moved. What did you find? The brain cells of the dragon. They're different from what we thought, Minho said, moving aside so she could see. The lab was on the human colony world of Seoul. Humans had lived here for 100 years. They named the flying reptiles of this world dragons because they looked like the mythical creatures from Earth stories. These dragons weren't very big, about the size of a large dog, but they could fly short distances and breathe small flames. Jia looked through the microscope and gasped. These cells, therefore emotions, like the ones in human brains. Exactly, Minho said with excitement. Earth reptiles don't have these, but sea-owl dragons do. Outside the lab window, a green dragon flew by. It landed on a special perch and made a happy sound when a lab worker gave it food. It's why they bond with us, Minho continued. They don't just obey us. They actually care about us. For 5 years, Minho and Jia had been studying the dragons. At first, people thought the dragons were just smart animals. But Minho and Jia found that there was more. The dragons formed real bonds with humans. They showed sadness, happiness, and even love. Kiwi missed me when I was sick last week, Jia said, speaking of her own dragon. Han said she wouldn't eat for 2 days. Minho nodded. That's not just training. That's emotional attachment. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the research center. Red lights flashed on the walls. What's happening? Jia asked, covering her ears. The main screen in their lab turned on by itself. The colony's defense chief appeared. This is an emergency broadcast. Unknown spacecraft have entered orbit around Seoul. All citizens should stay where they are. This is not a drill. Minho and Jia looked at each other with wide eyes. First contact, Minho whispered. They rushed to the window. In the sky, strange lights moved between the clouds. 3 hours later, Minho and Jia sat in the colony's main meeting hall with other important scientists and leaders. The room was silent as they waited. The doors opened. 4 guards walked in, followed by the strangest being Minho had ever seen. It was tall with greenish-gray skin and yellow eyes. It walked on 2 legs and had a long tail. Its face had scales and a short snout. It looks like, Jia whispered. A dragon, Minho finished. A walking, talking dragon. The alien spoke, and a machine translated its words. I am Commander Duan of the Tazal Empire. We claim this world as ours. Colony Leader Park stood up. This world is a human colony. We have lived here for a century. Duan made a sound like laughter. And we have searched for it for a millennium. Those creatures you call dragons, they are our relatives. This is a Tazal world. As if on cue, a much larger dragon creature entered the room. It wore metal armor and followed closely behind Duan. Unlike the colony's friendly dragons, this one's eyes were cold and empty. Your dragons are pets. Ours are weapons, Duan said. You have 3 of your Earth months to surrender this world, or we will take it by force. The large dragon behind him hissed, showing sharp teeth. Minho looked at Jia. Her face showed the same fear he felt. But also he saw something else in her eyes. An idea forming. They're dragons and our dragons, she whispered. They're the same species, but so different. Minho nodded slowly. Theirs obey commands. And ours love us, Jia said. They didn't know it yet, but this difference would change everything. The meeting room was tense. Humans sat on one side of the long table, and the Tazal sat on the other. Commander Duan's large war dragon stood by the door, watching everyone with cold eyes. You must understand, Duan said, his voice rough. We have taken 12 worlds before yours. None could stand against our war dragons. Colony Leader Park leaned forward. But why? We can share this world. Duan laughed, showing sharp teeth. The strong do not share with the weak. That is the way of the universe. Minho raised his hand. As the lead dragon researcher, he had been asked to join this meeting. May I ask about your dragons? Duan turned his yellow eyes to Minho. Ask. How do you control them? Our dragons form bonds with us. They choose to help us. The Tezel commander touched the side of his war dragon's head. The creature didn't move or blink. See this metal piece? It connects to their brain. They obey every command without question. Jia spoke up. But doesn't that limit their thinking? Our dragons solve problems on their own sometimes. Dragons are tools, not companions, Duan said firmly. A tool does not need to think. It needs to obey. After the meeting, Minho and Jia walked quickly back to their lab. Their minds were racing with new information. Did you see how different their dragons are? Jia asked. So big and strong, but their eyes were empty. Minho nodded. No joy, no fear, nothing. When they reached the lab, they found their dragons waiting. Kiwi, Jia's small blue dragon, jumped into her arms and licked her face. Dole, Minho's dragon, made happy sounds and rubbed against his leg. The Tezel think this is weakness, Minho said, petting Dole's head. But I think it's our strength. Later that day, they met with the colony's military leaders. Commander Te, a stern woman with short gray hair, showed them pictures of the Tezel ships. Their fleet has over 50 warships, he said. Each carries hundreds of war dragons. They are 3 times the size of ours and trained for battle. The room grew quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. If the Tezel attacked, the human colony would fall. Can Earth send help? Someone asked. The message has been sent, but it will take 2 months for ships to reach us, Tai answered. We have 3 months before the Tezel attack. Not enough time to build proper defenses. Minho looked at Jia. She nodded. And he stood up. I have an idea, he said. The Tezel think our bond with dragons is a weakness. But what if it's our best weapon? The room went silent. All eyes turned to him. Explain, Commander Ta said. Minho took a deep breath. The Tezel dragons are bigger and stronger, yes. But they only follow orders. Our dragons fight for us because they want to. Because they care. What good is that against their numbers and size? Someone asked. We can breed our dragons to be bigger too, Minho said. We've been studying their genetics for years. With the right changes, we could make them grow faster and larger. In 3 months? Tai asked, doubtful. Yes, Jia added, standing up. But we keep the emotional bond. That's what the Tezel don't have. Their dragons obey out of fear or mind control. Ours will fight out of love. Commander Ta thought for a moment. And you believe love is stronger than fear? I do, Minho said firmly. Ta looked at the images of the Tezel fleet again. There seemed to be no hope against such power. But maybe, just maybe, this crazy idea could work. You have 2 weeks to show me progress, she finally said. If it works, we'll put all our resources behind it. As they left the meeting, Jia grabbed Minho's arm. Do you really think we can do this? Minho looked at her. We have to. It's our only chance. The lab was busier than ever. Minho and Jia had called in all the dragon handlers and researchers on Seoul. They needed every smart mind they could find. We have less than 3 months, Minho said to the room full of people. We need to make our dragons bigger and stronger, but keep their emotional bonds with us. A young woman raised her hand. I'm Suk. I work with the wild dragons in the South Hills. They are already larger than our tame ones. Maybe we can use them. Minho nodded. Good thinking, Suk. Can you bring some here? Yes, she said. I have one that trusts me already. Her name is Bio. Jia wrote on a large board at the front of the room. We need 3 teams. One to work on making the dragons grow faster, one to train them for battle, one to strengthen the emotional bonds. People split into groups based on their skills. Minho would lead the growth team. Ja would lead the training team. And Suk, with her special way with wild dragons, would lead the bonding team. As everyone got to work, Commander Ta walked in. Her face was serious. Earth has sent a message, she said. They can only send 5 ships. Not enough to fight the Tazal fleet. The room went quiet. Now they knew for sure they were on their own. Then we must succeed, Minho said. There is no other choice. The next day, Suk returned with Bayal. The wild dragon was twice the size of the lab dragons. Her scales were dark blue, almost black. She walked close to Suk, clearly trusting her. How did you bond with her? Ja asked, watching in wonder. Slowly, with respect, Suk said, stroking Bayal's neck. I didn't try to control her. I asked for her help. Dragons understand more than we think. Minho's team worked day and night. They used the Tazal scientific data that had been shared during the diplomatic meetings. The aliens had freely given information about dragon growth, thinking humans could never use it in time. Look at this, Minho showed Ja one night. The Tazal use drugs to make their dragons grow fast, but it damages the emotional parts of the brain. Can we change it? Make it safe? Ja asked. I think so, Minho said. We need to protect the limbic system, the emotional center. 2 weeks passed. In a special area outside the lab, 10 dragons were now in the growth program. They were getting bigger each day. Among them was Hana, the first dragon they had chosen for the experiment. Commander Ta came to see the progress. She watched as Hana flew around the training area, already 3 times her original size. Impressive, Ta said. But can she fight? Gia nodded to one of her trainers. The woman threw a ball high into the air. Hana shot a stream of fire, hitting the target perfectly. Her flames are hotter too, Gia explained. And she did that because she wanted to please her handler, not because she was forced. In another area, Suk was working with Bayal. The wild dragon was learning to fly with a rider on her back. The bond is the key, Suk told Commander Ta. Bayal protects me because she cares for me. That makes her try harder than any controlled dragon would. Ta watched for a long time. Then she made her decision. You have your 3 months, she said. Full support from the colony. Whatever you need. As Ta left, Minho looked at Gia and Suk. Now the real work begins. Suk nodded, her hand resting on Bayal's head. We'll be ready. But none of them saw the man watching from the shadows. He slipped away to send a message. The dragon program is working. This could ruin our plans for surrender. His name was Quan, and he believed giving up to the Tazal was the only way to survive. 1 month had passed since Commander Todd gave her approval. The dragons were growing faster than anyone had hoped. Hana was now the size of a small car, and Bayal was even bigger. Minho walked through the training area, watching the dragons and their handlers work together. It was nothing like the cold obedience of the Tazal war dragons. Here, humans and dragons moved as partners. The results are better than we expected, Gia said, joining him. She held a tablet showing growth charts. They're gaining size and strength without losing their emotional connections. And the training? Minho asked. See for yourself. Gia pointed to where Suk and Bayal were practicing. Suk stood in the center of a large field. Bayal circled high above her. Suk raised her hand, and Bayal dove down, creating a ring of fire around her trainer. The flames were hot but didn't touch Suk. Then Bayal landed gently beside her. Amazing control, Minho said. The Tazal dragons just follow orders, but Bayal understands what Suk needs. Gia nodded. I've noticed something else too. Watch when the dragons are together. She led Minho to a larger area where 5 grown dragons were resting. As they watched, the dragons seemed to move their heads in similar ways, almost like they were talking without sound. I think they're communicating, Gia said. Some kind of signal we can't see or hear. Minho was excited. Like a network? Can you measure it? Yes, Jia showed him another screen. It's electromagnetic. Very weak, but it's there. And it gets stronger when their handlers are nearby. This was a big discovery. If the dragons could talk to each other, they could work together better than any Tazil force. Later that day, Suk was working alone with Bayol. The large dragon was now strong enough to carry 2 people on her back. Suk climbed up and patted Bayol's neck. "You're doing so well," she said softly. "You're going to help save all of us." Bayol made a low, happy sound. Then she turned her head sharply, looking into the trees nearby. "What is it?" Suk asked. Bayol growled. Something was wrong. Suk slid down from the dragon's back and walked toward the trees. Suddenly, she heard a noise behind her. A man in a dark coat stepped out. It was Senator Quan. "This program is a waste of time," he said. "The Tazil are too strong. We should surrender now and save lives. Our dragons will be ready," Suk said firmly. "We can win." Quan shook his head. "You're going to get everyone killed." He pulled out a small device. "I'm sorry, but I need to stop this." Before Suk could say anything, Quan pressed a button. A high-pitched sound filled the air. Bayol roared in pain. All around the training center, dragons began to cry out. The sound was hurting them. Suk ran at Quan, trying to grab the device, but he pushed her away. She fell hard to the ground. Then something amazing happened. Despite the painful sound, Bayol moved toward Suk. Step by step, fighting through the pain, the dragon reached her friend and stood over her protectively. Quan was shocked. It should be disabled. The Tazil said this would work. Guards ran into the area, alerted by the noise. They grabbed Quan and took the device. When they turned it off, the dragons calmed down. Minho and Jia rushed to check on all the dragons. None were badly hurt, just scared. "Are you okay?" Minho asked Suk, helping her up. "Yes," she said, hugging Bayol's neck. "She protected me, even when she was in pain." Jia looked at the device the guards had taken from Quan. "This is Tazil technology. Quan is working with them." Minho nodded grimly. "The Tazil are getting nervous. They know we found their weakness." "What weakness?" Suk asked. "Love," Minho said. "Their dragons obey because they must. Ours fight because they choose to. And that makes them stronger." 2 months had passed since the Tazil gave their ultimatum. Only 1 month remained before they would return. The dragon program had made great progress, but time was running out. Quan was locked in a cell. Guards watched him day and night, but Minho worried that he might not be the only traitor. "We need to be careful," he told Jia as they checked on the dragons. "Quan might have friends." Jia nodded. "I've asked Commander Ta to check everyone who works with us." They now had 20 full-sized war dragons. Each one was bonded to a special handler. Bayol was the largest and strongest of all, almost as big as the Tazil commander's dragon. That night, Minho couldn't sleep. He felt that something was wrong. He got up and walked to the lab. When he reached the door, he heard noises inside. Slowly, he opened the door. 3 people were in the lab. They were not scientists. They were putting something in the dragon's food. "Stop!" Minho shouted. The 3 people turned. One pulled out a gun. "Don't move," the man said. "We're finishing what Quan started." "Why are you helping the Tazil?" Minho asked. He needed to keep them talking. He had pressed the alarm button near the door. "The Tazil will win no matter what," the woman said. "If we help them, they will let some of us live." "You don't know that," Minho said. "Our dragons have a chance." The 3rd person laughed. "Your dragons are about to get very sick. This poison won't kill them, but they won't be able to fight." Suddenly, alarms went off throughout the building. The 3 looked around in panic. "Guards are coming," Minho said. "Give up now." But instead of giving up, they ran toward the other door. As they opened it, Jia was standing there with 2 security guards. "Stop them!" Minho shouted. The guards grabbed 2 of them, but the man with the gun got away. He ran toward the dragon's sleeping area. Minho and Jia followed him. When they reached the area, they saw something terrible. The man was opening all the dragon cages. "No," Jia cried. But it was too late. The dragons were confused and scared. They had been sleeping, and now strange people were in their area. Some of the dragons began to breathe fire. The man smiled. "Chaos. That's all we need." Then something unexpected happened. Sook ran into the room. "Everyone be quiet," she shouted. To everyone's surprise, the dragons stopped making noise. They looked at Sook. "It's okay," she said in a calm voice. "You're safe." The dragons began to calm down. Even without their individual handlers, they trusted Sook. The man raised his gun, pointing it at Sook. "You're ruining everything." Suddenly, a large shape crashed through the roof. It was Bayo. She had been sleeping outside and had sensed Sook was in danger. Bayo landed between Sook and the man. She roared, and the man dropped his gun in fear. Guards rushed in and grabbed him. But in the confusion, some of the scared dragons had hurt themselves trying to escape their cages. Bayol was cut by broken metal from the roof. "Bayol is hurt," Sook cried, running to her dragon. The cut was deep. Blood flowed from Bayol's side. "Get the medical team," Minho told one of the guards. Later, as doctors treated Bayol, Commander Tai arrived. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Several dragons are hurt," Jia reported. "Bayol got the worst of it. Will she be able to fight when the Tazel come?" Tai asked. "A Tazel dragon with this injury would be killed and replaced," Minho said. "They don't waste time healing them." "But we're not Tazel," Sook said firmly. "I'm not leaving her. She saved my life." Commander Ta nodded. "Take care of her. We need every dragon we can get." As Tai left, Minho realized something important. This is another difference between us and the Tazel. We value each dragon as a friend, not just a weapon. And that, Jia added, might be what saves us all. 10 days before the Tazel deadline, Minho sat in a small room studying a piece of Tazel technology. It was part of the device Quan had used to hurt the dragons. Jia worked at another table, looking at brain scans of their dragons. "This is strange," Minho said. He pointed to a small metal part inside the device. "This isn't designed to hurt dragons. It's designed to control them." Jia came over to look, like their neural implants. "Yes, but without surgery," Minho explained. "It sends signals that block the dragon's own thoughts." Jia's eyes widened. "That's why our dragons were in pain. They were fighting against the control." Minho nodded slowly. "And Bayol fought the hardest because her bond with Sook is so strong." Just then, a guard brought in a package. "This just arrived from the Tazel ship. They say it's part of the peace terms." After the guard left, Minho opened the package carefully. Inside was a small metal box with a screen. When he touched it, the screen showed Commander Duan's face. "Human scientists," Duan said, "we know about your dragon program. It is useless. Here is proof of our power." The screen changed to show a massive hangar filled with hundreds of war dragons. Each one wore metal armor and had the neural control device on its head. "1 week, Duan said. "We are tired of waiting. Surrender in 1 week or face extinction." The screen went dark. Minho and Jia looked at each other in fear. "1 week," Jia whispered. "Not enough time." Minho picked up the Tazel device again. "Maybe we're looking at this wrong. Instead of trying to make our dragons as strong as theirs, we need to find their weakness." They called Commander Tai, who came right away with Sook. They showed them the message from Duan. "We have 20 war dragons ready," Ta said. "They have hundreds." "But their dragons have a weakness," Minho said. "The neural control." He put the Tazel device on the table. This blocks the dragon's natural communication. Remember how our dragons can talk to each other with electromagnetic signals. The Tazel block that ability. They don't want their dragons communicating freely. Why? Suk asked. Control, Jia answered. If the dragons could talk to each other, they might rebel. Minho picked up another device they had built. We made this to measure our dragon's signals. But what if we changed it to boost those signals instead? Jia caught on quickly. A signal strong enough to break through the Tazel control. Exactly, Minho said. We need to test it. Commander Tai made a call. An hour later, guards brought in a small Tazel drone they had captured. It had a neural device similar to the ones on the war dragons. Let's see if this works, Minho said. He turned on their signal booster near the drone. At first, nothing happened. Then the drone began to shake. The light on its neural device flickered from green to red. It's fighting the control, Jia said. Suddenly, the neural device shut down completely. The drone's eyes seemed clearer, more alive. It looked around the room with what appeared to be curiosity, not the empty stare it had before. It worked, Suk exclaimed. The drone looked at Suk and made a small sound, almost like a greeting. Will this work on the big war dragons? Tai asked. The principle is the same, Minho said. The main meeting room was packed with people. Soldiers, scientists, and dragon handlers all stood shoulder to shoulder. On a large screen, they could see the Tazel ships moving closer to their world. Commander Ta stood at the front of the room. We have less than 36 hours before they reach us. We need a plan now. Minho and Jia stepped forward. Behind them, Suk stood next to Bayal. The large dragon was still healing but insisted on being part of the meeting. She would not leave Suk's side. We have 20 war dragons ready, Minho said. Not enough to fight their hundreds. But we have something they don't, Jia added. A way to break their control. She held up the signal device they had tested. This can disrupt the neural controls on their dragons. But it only works at close range. How close? Tai asked. Very close, Minho said. We need to get near their main control ship. A soldier raised his hand. Their fleet has too many ships. How will we know which one is the control ship? Jia pointed to the screen showing the Tazel fleet. See this larger ship in the middle. When we studied their technology, we learned that all their control signals come from one place. That has to be it. Ta nodded. So we need to get your device to that ship. Yes, Minho said. And we need our strongest dragon to carry it. All eyes turned to Bayal. The dragon seemed to understand. She stood taller, despite her injury. She's still hurt, Suk said, placing a hand on Bayal's neck. We can't ask her to do this. Jia agreed. We should use Hana or one of the others. Bayal made a sound and nudged Suk with her head. She wants to do it, Suk said. I can feel it. Minho looked at the dragon with respect. It should be her choice. Tay turned to the screen again. Here's the plan. Our regular forces will engage their smaller ships. This will create a distraction. Meanwhile, our dragons will fly directly for the control ship. It's risky, a soldier said. Most of our dragons won't make it through their defenses. True, Tay admitted. But we only need one to reach the control ship with the signal device. I will take the device, Suk said, stepping forward. Bayal and I will go. You're the best rider we have, Minho said. But it's a one-way trip. Once you activate the device, every Tazel ship in range will target you. Suk looked at Bayal. We understand the risk. Ta nodded grimly. It's settled then. Everyone, prepare for battle. We launch in 24 hours. That night, the dragon handlers spent time with their dragons. They knew many would not return from this mission. In the special area where the dragons slept, humans sat beside their bonded partners, talking softly, sharing food, and strengthening their connections. Minho found Suk sitting with Bayal under the stars. The large dragon's wing was wrapped around Suk like a protective shield. "Are you sure about this?" Minho asked. Suk nodded. "When I first met Biol in the wild, she could have killed me. Instead, she chose to trust me. Now I trust her with my life, and the lives of everyone on this planet." Minho handed her a small device. "Jia made this stronger. It should disrupt their entire network at once. But you'll need to get very close to the control ship's main antenna." "We'll get there," Suk said with quiet confidence. Minho looked at Biol. "The Tazel think our bond with dragons is weakness. Tomorrow, we show them how wrong they are." In her quarters, Jia made final adjustments to the signal device. On her desk was a picture of her family. She touched it gently. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "we find out if love really is stronger than control." The morning of the battle, the sky was clear. The Tazel ships hung in the air like dark clouds. 20 human ships rose to meet them, along with 30 dragons and their riders. From the command center, Minho and Jia watched the screens showing the battle. Commander Ta stood next to them, giving orders to her troops. "Our ships are in position," an officer reported. "Dragons are ready to launch." Ta nodded. "Begin the attack." The human ships fired first. Bright beams of light shot toward the Tazel fleet. The smaller Tazel ships moved forward to engage. "Now," Ta said into her radio, "Dragon Squad, go." On another screen, they could see the dragons take off. Each rider wore a special suit to help them breathe in the high air. The dragons flew in 3 groups, just as they had planned. "First group is drawing fire from the left," an officer said. "Second group from the right." "And the third?" Tai asked. "Straight up the middle," the officer replied. "Suk and Biol are leading them." On the screen, they could see Biol's dark shape flying higher than the others. Around her, smaller dragons formed a protective circle. The Tazel ships noticed the dragons. They fired energy weapons at them. 2 dragons fell from the sky. "We've lost Kim and Taiho," the officer reported sadly. More ships turned toward the dragons. The plan was working. The Tazel were dividing their attention. In the air, Suk held tight to Biol's back. The wind was strong, and the air was thin this high up. Around them, energy beams flashed by. Biol moved quickly, dodging each one. "There it is," Suk said, pointing ahead. The main control ship was huge. It had a tall antenna on top their target. As they flew closer, a new threat appeared. Tazel war dragons launched from the ship. There were dozens of them, each one bigger than Biol. "Protect Suk and Biol," the leader of the third group called out. The human dragons met the Tazel dragons in the air. Fire and claws flashed. Riders directed their dragons with touch and voice, while the Tazel dragons moved in perfect formation, controlled by their neural implants. Back in the command center, Minho watched with worry. There are too many of them. Half of the human dragons were already gone. The Tazel had lost some too, but they had many more to spare. On the screen, they could see Biol fighting her way toward the control ship. 3 Tazel dragons chased her. "She's not going to make it," Jia said, her voice tight with fear. Then something unexpected happened. The remaining human dragons formed a line behind Biol. They flew directly into the path of the Tazel dragons, creating an opening. "They're sacrificing themselves," Ta said softly. Biol shot through the gap, flying straight for the antenna. Suk held the signal device in her hand, ready to activate it. But the Tazel commander saw them coming. On the largest screen in the command center, they could see Commander Duan's face. He was giving orders on his ship. "All forces target the Dark Dragon," they heard him say. Every Tazel weapon turned toward Biol. Energy beams crisscrossed the sky around her. One clipped her wing, and she spun in the air. Suk nearly fell off, but held on. "They're not going to make it," Jia whispered. Minho nodded sadly. They were so close. Biol steadied herself. She was hurt, but still flying. The control ship was right in front of them now. Suk raised the device. An energy beam hit Bayul directly. The dragon roared in pain. On the screen, they saw both dragon and rider fall toward the control ship. "No," Jia cried. But as they fell, Suk pressed the button on the device. It lit up brightly. Then Bayul and Suk crashed onto the surface of the control ship, right next to the antenna. For a moment, nothing happened. The battle continued. The Tazel were winning. Victory seemed impossible. Then, one by one, the Tazel dragons began to fly strangely. They broke formation. Some stopped fighting entirely. "It's working," Minho said, hope in his voice. "The signal is breaking their control." But was it enough? And what had happened to Suk and Bayul? The command center was silent. All eyes were on the screens. The signal device had worked. The Tazel dragons were no longer following orders. But chaos had taken over the battlefield. "What's happening?" Commander Tai asked. Minho watched carefully. "The Tazel dragons are free from control. They don't know what to do." Some of the Tazel dragons were flying in circles. Others were attacking Tazel ships. A few had simply stopped fighting and were hovering in place. "What about Suk and Bayul?" Jia asked. No one had seen them since they crashed onto the control ship. Suddenly, one of the officers pointed to a screen. "Look there." On the surface of the control ship, movement could be seen. Something was rising from the crash site. As the camera zoomed in, they saw it was Bayul. The dragon was hurt but alive. And on her back was Suk, also alive but clearly injured. "They survived," Jia said with joy. But they were not safe yet. The control ship was trying to shoot them. Bayul dodged weakly, her strength fading. Then, something amazing happened. 3 Tazel war dragons flew toward Bayul, but instead of attacking, they formed a circle around her, protecting her from the ship's weapons. "The Tazel dragons are helping them," Minho said in wonder. On the main screen, they could see inside the Tazel control ship. Commander Duan was shouting at his officers. "Restore control now," he yelled. "This is impossible." One of his officers replied, "The neural network is completely down. The dragons are talking to each other." Duan's face showed fear for the first time. "Talking? How?" Before the officer could answer, a massive war dragon appeared at the window of the control room. It was Duan's personal dragon. Its eyes were no longer empty. They held anger and purpose. The dragon smashed through the window. As air rushed out, the video feed went dead. In the sky, more and more Tazel dragons were turning against their former masters. They attacked the ships that had held them captive. Without their dragons, the Tazel fleet began to fall apart. "They're retreating," an officer reported. The remaining Tazel ships were turning away from the planet. "Should we pursue?" Tai asked. "No," Minho said. "Let them go. The war is over." Search teams found Suk and Bayul a few hours later. They were surrounded by Tazel dragons who refused to let anyone approach except other dragons. It took Hana and 2 other human dragons to convince them that the humans wanted to help. Both Suk and Bayul had bad injuries but would survive. As medical teams treated them, the Tazel dragons watched closely, learning how humans cared for their dragons. 1 year later, Minho stood on a hill overlooking a new settlement. It was built for both humans and dragons, including many former Tazel war dragons who had chosen to stay. "It's amazing how quickly they've formed their own society," Jia said, standing beside him. Below them, Tazel dragons and human dragons played together. Some even had Tazel riders, those few who had rejected the Empire's cruel ways and chosen to form real bonds with their dragons. "The Tazel Empire is falling apart," Jia continued. "Without their dragon armies, they can't hold their conquered worlds." Minho nodded, and all because they never understood the power of connection. They watched as Suk approached, riding Bayul. Both had healed well. Bayul now wore a special badge. She was the leader of the Dragon Council, A group of dragons who spoke for their kind in meetings with humans. "We're leaving tomorrow," Sook said when she reached them. "4 more Tazzle worlds have asked for help freeing their dragons." "Safe travels," Minho said. The dragons couldn't ask for better ambassadors. As Sook and Bayol flew away, Minho thought about how everything had changed. The Tazzle had believed that control was power. They had created the perfect weapons, dragons that obeyed every command. But humans had created something stronger, dragons that fought out of love. And in the end, that love had freed not just one world, but many. Their dragons obeyed commands. Ours loved us, and that had made all the difference.